Welcome everybody to this interview by Core Recruitment. Thank you very much for joining us today. Now, Core obviously does kind of quite a lot of work in the diversity and inclusion space. And with International Women's Day coming up, we wanted to meet some female leaders to tell us about their journey as a bit of inspiration for all of us at the start of the day. So I'm very, very lucky today to be joined by Alison, who has been a long-standing contact of ours for a long time. Hi, Alison, how are you?
I'm really well, thank you. How are you?
Very, very good indeed. I happen to know that Alison's struggling with a little bit of a cold today, so she's heroing on and doing the interview for us. So thank you very much for doing that, Alison. It's much appreciated. And for those that don't know you, can you give us a little bit about your background and where you are now?
Absolutely. So my name's Alison Gray, and I'm the VP of Human Resources for Delaware North in the UK. For those of you who don't know, Delaware North is a global hospitality organisation. American, family owned and operated, and I've worked for Delaware North for 10 years. I can't believe it. I think probably the last 2 years have flown by so much, but it's a fantastic organisation. We work in this country predominantly in the sporting and eventing arena, so we're the people that put on the great big football matches, lots and lots of stellar concerts. And we also have a small business in the travel market. I haven't always been in HR. Prior to my career in HR, I was an operator. I did the traditional journey of I went to hotel school. I worked in some hotels. I then worked in the leisure industry. And then some bosses of mine set up their own business and asked me if I'd like to go along and be their HR person. And that's when I pivoted my career. So I do what I love the most, but I also do it in the industry I love the most. So it's a win-win for me.
And I know it's not, we're not here to talk about COVID or the pandemic, but one thing that was really apparent to me through the whole time, Alison, was just how much communication and how much contacts and what a network that you managed to build up over that time. The support that you guys were giving each other kind of cross-company during the pandemic was pretty impressive, right?
Yes, and parts of the industry such as ours, I think, were hit so badly. I mean, in the UK, we were shut for 15 months commercially, and as an organisation, we ground to a halt pretty well overnight. But actually, the silver lining of what happened to us as an organisation is we were able to really regroup, really look at everything that we do and how we do it. And across all continents in our company, we managed to rebuild in a much smarter way. But what was also incredible, I feel, is through our industry networks, there was a whole group of HR leaders who got together from a variety of different companies, and the same as operators. And I think it was a really amazing come together moment at a time of great adversity. And I think we all helped each other through it. And we're all sitting, fingers crossed, on the other side of it now.
100%. Keep everything crossed, not just fingers. So on to the topic of the day, in terms of International Women's Day, what does it mean to you, Alison?
So, I mean, what it really means to me is it is a day to absolutely celebrate women and women in business. But I also feel, unfortunately, that it's a day that we need to have in the calendar to remind absolutely everybody that there's still a lot of work to be done, and that women still don't have the same opportunities and the same recognition as men in the workplace. So I see it as a day to celebrate everything we bring to the table, that all women bring to the table, and the contributions that they make, and just a bit of a reminder for everybody out there that women are not yet equally represented.
Do you so when you say that, do you think things have improved in the past 10 years or so, or?
I do think that things have improved. I'm concerned about the last 2 years, the impact of what's happened and what that will mean to opportunities for women in the near term, because I think there are still so many obstacles to overcome to whatever our new normal of what doing business in our industry is. And I hope that all organisations continue in the vein that they have done, over the last 2 years. Remote working, virtual working, flexi working, hybrid working, all of that type of working has been a must do to get the job done. And everybody's demonstrated that they can do it. I hope that as a sense of calm begins to prevail, that organisations continue to embrace that approach and women don't suffer detriments because they're not able or they're not enabled to carry on working in a really different way than maybe they did before COVID-19.
That's a very, very valid point. Thank you very much for that. So regarding the pay issue, there's been lots of legislation, lots of advice, lots of initiatives that kind of different companies have driven. And I can certainly say from a recruitment perspective that we haven't reached parity on the pay side of things yet. Why do you think that is?
I wish I did know. I think things like introducing the gender pay legislation is really helpful in terms of highlighting the situation. I was very fortunate to be part of a white paper working group on the run up to the legislation, and there was a huge debate around, should this be a progressive piece of legislation to help employers understand that there's too much disparity and it's not right? Should it be a stick to beat organisations with and fine them? And we absolutely universally agreed that it should be a progressive piece of legislation to help organisations look at the situation, understand their own organisational culture, and then to do the right thing to ensure that the right processes and the right mindsets are in place to enable pay parity. So from recruiting, there should be no difference between men and women being evaluated for jobs based on pay. Same for internal progression, and there should be frameworks in place like pay frameworks or job grading frameworks, things that can seem quite dull, but actually just by the sheer nature of them, they avoid pay disparity from happening. But I feel that I feel that women don't always feel that they can state their case. I might think that men are more confident about stating their case. And I think that a lot of what happens is done unconsciously. And then I worry that unconscious decisions are made about pay benefits for women, and for reasons that are not yet overcome, women don't feel that they have the voice to state their own corner. And the outcome of all of that is women continue to be paid less than their male counterparts.
Absolutely. In terms of advice that you would give, I mean, especially kind of like younger female leaders who are coming up in their career in terms of building their confidence and their abilities, what would you advise them to do?
I definitely advise them to believe in themselves and to have a voice. And that if inside they know that they are not being viewed fairly in relation to their male counterparts, it's absolutely their responsibility to speak up. Because going back to the fact that I still think a lot of what is not right is unconscious, it's not deliberate. But if women aren't able to put their case forward and speak out, it's not going to change. So to any young female leader coming up through their career, they should never, I would say, never be afraid to go and speak to somebody and share the position that you find yourself in. There are always ways of doing that, but we should have self-belief, and we should always feel that we have a right to have a voice. I'm really sorry, I've got a dog here, so the dog is barking in the background.
I think he's getting a whole pile of doggy biscuits that he wasn't going to otherwise get, so he's probably a very happy dog as well.
Yeah.
In terms of women in the sector and getting promoted, do you think they have a harder time getting promoted than their male counterparts?
In the sector of the industry that I'm in, I think it's really easy for that to happen. And I think it's a lot of it is entrenched in the way the world has always worked, and a real challenge in helping people change their mindsets on how it could work. So I work in major eventing. There's a lot of big events that happen in the evenings, at the weekends. There are long hours. It can be grueling, but it's balanced with the absolute excitement and the adrenaline and the real feel of satisfaction when something that is just amazing has been delivered. And I know from my own position that there's often a view that women can't do it. And when you drill down with the hiring managers and say, but why can't women do that? There are definitely old schools of thought of, well, it's evenings, it's weekends, sometimes it's, many days on a row. And it's always down to having to challenge to say, but what relevance is that? Because that is irrelevant. If you have a female candidate sitting in front of you applying for a position, they're there because they want to be considered as a really viable candidate. So nothing else should ever be taken into consideration. But I just know from conversations that we have that people have concerns that real life, as it's referred to, so I call it home life, could get in the way of the requirements of the job, which is not correct at all.
No, absolutely. A leader that you look up to?
There are so many great female leaders, but just in recent times, there definitely is one person that really inspires and motivates me, and that's Sarah Davis, who's actually a dragon now on Dragon's Den. I've read quite a lot about her, and I feel that she epitomizes everything that future female leaders should be. She's really full of energy, but really positive energy, and she's obviously exceptionally good at what she does because she set her own business up. She's a dragon, and is able to so that alone is her helping other people find their way in life. She also, I watched her on Strictly, and I thought she was a great role model for women that have got families, that have got a massive career, but want to do something for themselves because it matters to them. I like that she shows vulnerability, and I think she's just someone I definitely would aspire to be, for sure.
Excellent. And what about within the industry or within your kind of like career? Is there any particular people that you've worked with or anything that you think really stand out?
Again, a lot. I would definitely say at the moment, my current leader is absolutely incredible. So she's only been with our organisation for a year. She came from the Four Seasons Hotel Group, and she came into our organisation when it was probably at its lowest ebb. And the whole agenda of people for our organisation had an opportunity to be reviewed. And I mean, what she's achieved in 1 year is incredible, but it's how she's gone about it. And she's a real role model for a different way of looking at the way the world works. She doesn't work in our head office in New York State. She does travel. She cuts through so much stuff, and she's really helping our organisation open its eyes to thinking about the world's got to be different. So our big office in North America reopened in September, but nobody was required to go back to the office full time because everyone had been working remotely for a year. that would never have happened in my company before the pandemic, for sure. And I really admire the way that she's transforming the culture of our organisation. There's a lot to learn from her.
That's amazing. And my last question, if you could go back to the early days of your career and give yourself a piece of advice, maybe when you were coming out of the trainee scheme or something like that, is there anything you would do differently, or is there anything you would want to go back and whisper in your ear?
Probably quite a lot of things. I think definitely a thing about belief that you earn your seat at the table and to have a voice. There have been times in my career for sure when the wrong things have been said and done to me because of my gender. I'd like to believe absolutely all the time it's only ever been through lack of knowledge, lack of understanding, or unintentionally. But I really recognise as a woman how much that can knock you and make you question your own opportunity. And looking back now, I think there are moments when I think I could have taken that one on, I could have tackled that one, but I chose to walk away and not say anything. So I think if I could wind the clock back, I'd be braver.
Well, I think you've done pretty well regardless, Alison. So
thank you.
Well, listen, thank you very much for having the chat with me today. I really appreciate it. I'm sure that there's lots of people watching who will get a bit of inspiration for their day through hearing this today as well. So thank you very much for taking part.
So it's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.